Hello dear students, welcome to SAS Institute of Management Studies. Myself Assistant Professor Jyotsna Jain. I'm going to be teaching you consumer behavior for semester 3 specialization marketing. Now let us understand what is consumer buying behavior. So consumer behavior is basically the study of how individuals, groups and organizations select, purchase, use and dispose of goods and services. It is basically understanding the why behind consumer decisions. Now, as MBA students, it's very important to understand that why you are studying this subject. So, you are studying this subject basically to understand what drives consumer needs and wants, because that would help the marketers to devise marketing strategies accordingly and also stay ahead of the competition by anticipating changes in consumer behavior. Let's take an example here. Apple is known for its innovative products and sleek designs. But have you ever wondered why consumers are so loyal to Apple products? It's because Apple understands consumer behavior and designs its products and marketing strategies accordingly. Apple's products are designed to be user-friendly, stylish, and innovative, which appeals to consumers who values these attributes. After understanding what is consumer behavior, we've concluded that the consumer decision process is the most important aspect of consumer behavior. So, the consumer decision making process involves several stages that the consumers can go through before making a final purchase. In the previous example of coffee, the customer went through the coffee website, explored different options of coffee, also highlighted the promotional messages, and then made a final decision. So, similarly, when the consumer makes a decision, the consumer is either highly involved or involved in a certain level. So now let us understand what is consumer involvement. It is basically the level of interest or engagement a consumer has with a product or a service. So here we are going to discuss two types of consumer involvement. So the two types of involvement are basically high involvement and low involvement. So high involvement products are those which are very important for a consumer, which are expensive and also requires a significant research and evaluation. For example, let's take an example here. Suppose that you want to purchase a house. Now, before purchasing a house, you would require a lot of planning, because purchasing a house happens once in a lifetime and it requires a major financial decision which will also have long-term implications, and that is why a consumer may go through an extensive research and multiple viewings and also negotiations, and then he will make a final decision. Another example we would take here of choosing a wedding dress. Now, the similar as buying a house, wedding happen once in a lifetime of a consumer, and every consumer would like to make the most of it, and that is why a consumer will be highly involved into purchasing the wedding dress, and that is why the consumer will explore all the possible options. He will also consider the style, fit, budget, and then finally make a decision. So here we can see in both the examples the consumer is highly involved before purchasing the product. So in as high involvement, there are also few products which does not require much planning. Let's say that you are in the college and you feel hungry. So whatever are the best possible options available for eating, you will just go and grab it. Like for example, you just visit the canteen and grab a burger. So now you are not making a lot of planning, or you are not considering the various aspects or alternatives here, because the items here are inexpensive and non-risky items also. These are the items which you buy on regular basis. Okay, Like here I have given an example of buying groceries which you buy on routine basis, or purchasing a toothpaste or a soap. Okay, so these are the examples of high and low involvement consumer behavior. So now we have understood that when making the purchase decisions, consumers can be influenced by various factors, and it could be cognitive or emotional. So understanding the difference between these two will help businesses develop effective marketing strategies. Let's first understand what is cognitive buying decision. So cognitive buying decisions are basically based on rational thinking, or you can say practical thinking. Here the consumer will go through a logical evaluation of product features, benefits, performance. Also, the consumer here will gather information, weigh the pros and cons, and then make an informed decision. For example, suppose a consumer would want to purchase a car. So here he will evaluate the car based on the fuel efficiency, safety features, reliability, and then maybe he would take a cognitive decision. In contrast, what is emotional buying decision? Here, the consumers are driven by feelings, intuitions, and personal connections. Consumers may make impulsive decisions just based on how the product makes them feel or how it fits with their identity. For example, a consumer choosing a particular vacation destination just because the consumer desires for relaxation and adventure. Or let's say a consumer may purchase a particular designer handbag because it makes him feel stylish and confident. So here we have seen the difference between the uh, cognitive and emotional. So cognitive decisions are basically rational decisions, whereas emotional decisions are driven by intuitions and feelings. Now, how marketers can make use of cognitive and emotional decisions? Here, for cognitive decisions, businesses can focus on providing detailed product information and comparison. For emotional decision, businesses can focus on creating brand experiences and emotional connections. Now let's understand the difference between optimizing versus satisfying consumer decision making. So optimizing is a consumer decision strategy where an individual thoroughly evaluates multiple options to find the best possible product or a service that meets their needs and wants. Now here the approach is basically involving various factors such as features, price, reviews and benefits. Okay. So here the consumer is trying to find out the best or optimum solution from all the available options. So let's take an example here. Suppose that if a consumer wants to purchase a laptop for work. So here the consumer will research different models and read the reviews, compare the features, evaluate prices to find which is the best possible option that will meet their needs. They may also consider factors such as processor speed, memory, battery life, and operating system. So here what the consumer is trying to do is trying to get the best possible product of the available categories. Whereas in satisfying, the consumer would not be highly involved by for purchasing the product. So he would basically settle for a product or a service that is good enough or meets the minimum criteria rather than searching for optimal solution. For example, if a consumer would want to purchase a smartphone, so here he would not uh, have an inclination to search for various product categories or evaluate different brands. So basically he would just pick up a phone which would need the meet the basic need such as making a call or a good camera quality or a good battery backup. So now let us understand the difference between optimizing versus satisfying. So optimizing is basically when you are involved into thorough evaluation of options and finding the best out of all. Whereas in satisfying, here you are only concerned with getting fulfilling the minimum criteria for purchasing the products. I would like to give one more example here. Suppose that if you are a vegetarian and you are looking for the vegetarian restaurants, so when a consumer is making optimizing decisions, he would explore all the vegetarian options in and around him, will also compare the menu, the prices, and then make a informed decisions. Whereas in satisfying, if a consumer is searching for a veg restaurant, he would not go and evaluate various restaurants. He would just pick up the first veg restaurant which is available to him. Now let's understand compensatory versus non-compensatory decision making. So compensatory decision making basically is a decision making that involves evaluating multiple attributes and features of a product or service by weighing the pros and cons of each option. A weakness in one attribute can be compensated by a strength in another attribute. We'll try to understand this with the help of. So let's try to understand compensatory and non-compensatory decision making with the help of an example. Suppose that a consumer is looking for purchasing a new car. Now, while exploring different options, a consumer finds out that car A is a little expensive than car B, but car A has better fuel efficiency and longer warranty. So, here the consumer would make a compensatory decision of purchasing a car A over car B, because here the consumer is compensating higher price for fuel efficiency. Similarly, suppose if a consumer is wanting to purchase an apartment, now he would choose an apartment with lower rent and more amenities, but it is far away from the workplace. So here what the consumer is trying to do, here he is trying to make up for the longer commute for the lower rent and more amenities that he would be receiving by purchasing that particular apartment. Now, try to understand non-compensatory decision making. So, in non-compensatory decision making, the consumer sets a minimum threshold for one or more attributes, and if any option does not meet the particular threshold, then it will be completely eliminated from consideration. Again, we will try to understand with help of an example. Suppose that a consumer want to purchase a smartphone. Okay, so here he will set a specification for purchasing smartphone. Like for example, he has set the threshold that he wants to purchase a smartphone which has a battery life of at least 10 hours, or a camera resolution of at least 12 megapixel, and prices should be under $500. So here a phone with an amazing camera and a low price but only 8 hours of battery life. Here the phone will be completely eliminated. Why it will be eliminated? Because here the consumers has set the minimum threshold that the battery life should be at least 10 hours. So any phone which is not meeting that criteria, the consumer will completely eliminate it. Okay, now here we've understood the difference between compensatory and non-compensatory. So compensatory will allow for trade-offs between attributes. Okay, so but in non-compensatory decision making, the consumer will focus on specific attributes and eliminate the any product which goes beyond the threshold. Now, how marketers can use compensatory and non-compensatory decision making for making strategies. So if a business knows that consumers are prioritizing on camera quality in smartphones, then they can emphasize on camera features of their product. Or if a business knows that consumers are setting a minimum threshold for a processor speed in laptop, then they can ensure that the product meets the that threshold and highlight that feature in the marketing campaigns. So this is how the marketers can use compensatory and non-compensatory decision making for making marketing strategies. Let's move on to the next topic, that is motivation in consumer behavior. So basically, motivation in consumer behavior is like the reason why people buy stuff. It's the internal drive that makes someone want to do something to fulfill a need or a want they have. Think of it like this: when you need something or want something, your motivation kicks in and guides you to make decisions about what to buy. Okay, so how motivation works for buying decision. So motivation can start when you realize that you need something, and this need could be very basic, like need for food or water, or could be about feeling a certain way, like wanting for a status or a belonging. So what the marketers do, they try to often make you aware of these needs and make them important to you. Let's take an example here. Suppose that if you are in Mumbai during monsoon season, so you might really need a waterproof backpack to keep your stuff dry. Okay, or say that after COVID, a lot of people get into health and fitness, so they started buying gym membership and home workout gear, acting on the need. So once you have realized your need, once you know that this is what I want, so you'll be very motivated to find out a way to get it. This means that you will look for options and start comparing them. Like if you want a waterproof backpack, then you will start checking out different brands, go online, go on stores, compare the prices and features, and then maybe you will be motivated enough to purchase that product.